I work on AI products at Amazon, and as I've watched the coding tools, writing tools, and even data analysis tools get better, sometimes scarily better, I've genuinely wondered whether I'll have a job in 5 years. And if I'm thinking that, and I'm the one helping build this stuff, I can only imagine what it feels like if you're on the outside looking in. So I did what I always do when I'm anxious about something. I went and read everything. Goldman Sachs, Anthropic, the World Economic Forum, Tufts, academic studies, all of it. What I found actually changed how I think about what you should do right now, but it's not what you'd expect. Let me show you the data first because it's sobering. Goldman Sachs estimated that the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs globally could be exposed to automation by generative AI. That's from their 2023 report. Anthropic published a study this year mapping AI's reach across every major US occupation. They found AI can theoretically cover most tasks in business, finance, management, computer science, legal, and office administration. And their researchers named the scenario they're actively watching for: a great recession for white-collar workers. Anthropic's CEO went even further last year. He told Axios he believes AI could eliminate up to 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years, and that unemployment could spike as high as 10 to 20%. The Tufts American AI Jobs Risk Index, just released in March, projects approximately 9.3 million US jobs at risk of displacement in the next 2 to 5 years, with up to $757 billion in household income on the line. And this isn't just numbers in a report. People are losing their jobs right now and either being told it's because of AI or just seeing the signs. Roughly 99,000 announced US job cuts since May 2023 have named AI as a factor. In March of this year alone, AI was cited in about 25% of the layoffs they tracked. So if you're in data, software, writing, finance, legal, customer support, you've seen your field show up on one of these lists. And these aren't like clickbait blogs. They're serious institutions putting out their best guesses. So let's not pretend this is nothing. But when I sat down and read these reports back to back, one thing stood out to me. They don't agree at all. Goldman says 300 million jobs are exposed globally, but the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report in 2025 tells a completely different story. They project 170 million new roles created and 92 million displaced by 2030, a net increase of 78 million jobs. Anthropic's report focuses on white-collar displacement, but explicitly acknowledges the timeline is totally uncertain. And here's the thing, their own data shows that actual AI adoption is just a fraction of what's theoretically possible. There's an enormous gap between what AI can do and what companies are actually using it for right now. One study says software engineering is the most exposed field. Another says it's the least exposed because engineers will be the ones building the tools. They're using different definitions of exposed, different time horizons, and different assumptions about adoption speed. And every single one of them is extrapolating from a technology that's changing faster than anyone can model. Here's one that really got me though. Goldman itself published a follow-up in March 2025, 2 years after the 300 million jobs headline, and their own economists found that aggregate labor market impacts are still negligible. They couldn't find a measurable effect on unemployment, layoffs, or productivity. 2 years, the same bank, and a completely different conclusion. And a recent Washington Post deep dive on AI and jobs cited a Peterson Institute economist who concluded that all the important questions about AI's effect on the labor market are still unanswered. The same article pointed out a Stanford analysis that found early career employment declining in AI-exposed roles, while an Economic Innovation Group study found essentially the opposite. Young workers in those same fields were doing better than peers in less AI-exposed ones. Even those layoff numbers I just cited caution that it's hard to say how much of this is actually AI versus companies using AI as a cover for cost-cutting they were going to do anyway. Right now, markets reward AI narratives. So saying, we're laying off 500 people because of AI sounds better to investors than we overhired during COVID. And it's not just the reports. The people closest to this technology are saying the same thing too, if you listen carefully. I was at a conference recently and I asked Chip Huyen, she literally wrote the book AI Engineering and is one of the most respected voices in this space, what her advice would be for students considering AI engineering careers over the next 2 to 3 years. Should they even bother given the pace of change? Her answer was interesting. She said engineering has never been about learning to code. It's about solving problems, and problems will continue to exist, which sounds reassuring. But then she told a story about a student she was talking to who was choosing physical therapy over computer science. And the way she told it, she didn't try to talk the student out of it. If even Chip Huyen isn't fully committed to the long-term outlook, that tells you something. And it's not just her. Thibaut Sotiot, the CTO of Codex, was asked what the software engineering job will look like in 2 years. His answer was that 2 years is too long for any predictions. He had some guesses for 6 months out, but that was it. The CTO of a company literally building AI coding tools can't tell you what software engineering looks like in 2027. So the reports don't agree. The experts don't know. And here's where it gets really interesting, because we've actually been here before, multiple times. And it never plays out the way the predictions say. When nobody agrees on which specific skills are safe, the move isn't to bet on one prediction. It's to build the kind of thinking that transfers no matter what happens. This is actually why I've been spending time on Brilliant lately. What I love about it is that it's built around interactive problem solving, not lectures. You're actually working through problems step by step in math, AI, and computer science, building the kind of foundational thinking that doesn't change when the next innovation happens. Their courses are built by professors from MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, and they cover everything from probability and data analysis to algorithmic thinking and Python. Plus, Brilliant is great for kids and adults. I used their calculus course when I was preparing for grad school, and it's the kind of thing where you're building real intuition, not just memorizing formulas you'll forget. You can learn on the go with the mobile app so you keep momentum even when you have a lot going on. The first 30 days are free at brilliant.org/Marina Wyss, and you get 20% off the annual premium subscription. Thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Now back to it. So we've got reports that contradict each other and experts who won't commit to anything beyond a 6-month guess. But what we can do is look at how these kinds of predictions have played out in the past. In 2023, Oxford researchers Carl Benedict Frey and Michael Osborne published probably the most cited study on automation in jobs. They estimated that 47% of total US employment was at high risk of computerization. That paper shaped a decade of policy conversations. It's been over a decade since then. ITIF looked at what actually happened. The occupation rated most likely to be automated, insurance underwriters, saw employment grow 16.4% between 2023 and 2021. The occupation rated least likely to be automated, recreational therapists, saw a decline of 8.9%. The correlation between predicted automation risk and the actual job loss was 0.26, basically noise. But it goes back way further than that. When ATMs rolled out in the 1970s and 80s, the prediction was obvious. Bank tellers were cooked. The literal name of the machine is automated teller. And the average branch did go from needing 21 to about 13 tellers. But there's more to it because branches got cheaper to run, so banks opened more of them, and total bank teller employment actually rose through the 2000s. The tellers didn't disappear, but their job shifted from counting cash to relationship banking and selling financial products. When spreadsheet software came along, it displaced roughly 2 million bookkeeping jobs, but it also created millions of new positions for accountants, auditors, and financial analysts, jobs that hadn't existed at that scale before. In the mid-1960s, the US government convened the National Commission on Technology, Automation, and Economic Progress. President Kennedy called automation the major domestic challenge of the time. The concern was mass unemployment within a decade. Employment actually went up. And in 2016, Geoffrey Hinton, the Turing Award winner, one of the most prominent figures in AI, said we should stop training radiologists because AI was getting better than humans at reading medical images. It's been nearly 10 years, and demand for radiologists in the US is at a record high. Now, to be clear, I am not saying this time will be the same. AI is genuinely different in important ways. It's going after cognitive work, not just routine manual tasks. It can write, reason, and code in ways that no previous automation technology could. The parallels are not perfect. But given all this, the reports that contradict each other, the experts who are hedging, and a historical record that says we're consistently terrible at predicting what technology does to jobs, what should you actually do? Real quick before I get into that. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, make sure to hit subscribe. I cover this stuff weekly. How the AI job market is actually shifting, what to learn, and technical skilled breakdowns for engineers in this space. The honest answer to what you should do is that nobody knows what's coming. Not me, not Chip Huyen, not the person on Twitter with the confident thread. And I think that's actually the most useful thing I can tell you because it changes what the right response is to this situation we find ourselves in. If you knew exactly what was coming, the right move would be to optimize for that specific future, of course. But when the future is genuinely uncertain, when serious researchers can't even agree on the direction, let alone the magnitude, optimization is the wrong strategy. The right strategy is resilience, which means becoming someone who will succeed no matter what happens. Here's what that looks like in practice. First, go deep on fundamentals, not frameworks. Math, statistics, probability, the kind of thinking that doesn't expire when the next tool comes around. If you understand why a model works, not just how to call the API, you can adapt when the tool changes, which you're going to need to do. You will need to learn how to learn quickly. The skill that matters most right now is the ability to pick up something new in a week or two and get productive with it. And get comfortable with ambiguity. The people who will struggle most aren't the ones with the wrong skills. They're the ones who are paralyzed waiting for someone to tell them the right path. There is no right path right now. There are a bunch of reasonable paths, and the best thing you can do is pick one and start moving. You can course correct later. You can't course correct if you're standing still. I know this isn't the comforting, here's the one skill you need answer, but I think that's actually the point. If someone is telling you that they know exactly what's safe and what isn't, they're either selling something or they don't have enough humility to admit the inherent uncertainty at this moment in time. The honest answer is messier than that, but it's also more freeing because it means the advantage goes to people who are adaptable, and that's something you can actually control. You don't need a prediction, you need a strategy that doesn't depend on one. Now, a lot of people hear the job market is changing and their first instinct is to pivot into AI engineering. Not a bad instinct, but most people do it wrong. I made a video breaking down exactly how to make that transition the right way. Check that out up next.